Commissioners, and I thought it appropriate to perhaps provide fuller clarity on the questions on the answers you had provided to the questions posed. So I suggest that before we deal with the remainder of your statement, we take a step back and we try and address the questions in full that arose. And thereafter, we will get back to your statement. Would that be appropriate?
Indeed, Commissioners.
Before we do so then, Commissioners, you recall that yesterday, General Flynn had indicated that he would be preparing a supplementary statement. That statement has been prepared, and your files have been duly updated. It is the last item in your current files. Now, General, let's turn then to your supplementary statement and formally place it on record. We will deal with the contents thereof in the fullness of time. Please turn to the last item in your file. There is a statement there marked supplementary statement of Hendrik Franz Flynn. It's a 7-page document. And if you go to page 7, it's dated even date, and it bears a signature. Do you confirm that's your signature?
Indeed, Commissioners.
And you confirm that the correctness of this supplementary statement and you stand by its content?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Thank you, General. Chair and Commissioners, if then it may be admitted, we will come back to the issue of the supplementary. For the moment, let's go back to your original statement, your first statement. And in this regard, I would like to draw your attention to, I suggest we first deal with paragraph 50. At paragraph 50, you point out that the FSL did not attend the scene. On 22nd June 2022 at the harbor. And the reason advanced was that FSL declined to do so because it was not a clan lab scenario, meaning it was not a clandestine drug laboratory. My question is, that term seems to refer to laboratory. And the scene as we had it at the Ahaba was not a laboratory case. Why then is the clan lab scenario of relevance to whether or not FSL could attend the scene?
Commissioners, it became relevant because Colonel Jacob indicated that he requested their presence at the scene and they denied it. So there was no need to call them because even the protocol direct that LCRC or the local criminal record center attend to normal drug seizures and not the forensic science laboratory.
So is it your testimony then that FSL in the circumstances was the wrong entity to make contact with?
Indeed, Commissioners.
And the the requirement that the exhibits be sealed at the crime scene and not after they have been transported to Port Shepstone. You see, it's your last sentence in paragraph 51. I'm going to, and commissioners, we now have 2 SAP 13s. And I think this would assist with a question posed by Commissioner Kumalo yesterday. I'll call the one the Isipingo SAP 13, and then we have the Port Shepstone SAP 13. Currently, hearing my voice back to me is rather weird. Currently, they are running prints and they will be uploading. In order for General Flynn to provide the requisite clarity on the issue, it is necessary that they be at hand. So if you allow me, I will park this until those documents are at hand, then he can talk us through them. And then Commissioner Kumalo will have his response, I trust. Thank you. In the meantime, then, I would invite us, General, to deal with the requirements in terms of the instruction notes and the legislation insofar as it is relevant on this matter. And then we will look at the SAP 13s themselves to determine whether or not they complied. I would suggest for that purpose, then we go to your annexure HH2, HFF2. And I'm going to request your assistance to help us understand the requirements of HFF2. For the record, that is the National Instruction 8 of 2017, titled Property and Exhibit Management. I would like us to perhaps start at page 73. I don't know how you normally refer to, whether I'm at 4. Is that a part 4? Is that a clause 4? That item 4? How do you normally refer to it? So,
Paragraph 4.
Paragraph 4, okay. Then let's start at your paragraph 4. Paragraph 4 speaks to or regulates the completion of SAP 13 registers when exhibits are handed in at the CSC. I think firstly, let's understand what is the CSC, and please, in that explanation, contrast it with what we generally understand to be a police station, if there is a difference.
Commissioners, the CSC, as I explained yesterday, is the Community Service Center or the Charge Office. And that's the...
I sometimes wonder why these names have been changed, because they serve to confuse us.
And that's the heartbeat of the police station. That's where all the activities start, and that is where the register is kept to enter exhibits into. So it's part of the police station, to answer Advocate Selu.
Oh, okay. So it's part of the police station. So if I say the SAP 13 is found at a police station, that would be inclusive of a CSC.
Indeed, Commissioners.
And then paragraph 4, you said you called them paragraphs. Please read sub 4 into the record. 4 sub 4.
Oh, sub 4.
Yes.
All property and exhibits seized must be entered in the SAP 13 register of the relevant police station where the crime was committed or where the property was found, and then transferred to the relevant unit and entered in the SAP 13 of the relevant unit.
A couple of questions from me on that. how should we understand the requirement that all property and exhibits seized must be entered into the SAP 13 register of the relevant police station where the crime was committed? Does that mean each and every item must be registered? Does that mean a generic description of the exhibit must be given? How should the commission interpret that requirement?
Commissioners, it's expected of police officers entering exhibits into the SAP 13 to be specific and complete. It means that exhibit seal numbers must, for instance, be entered. If there's a serial number on exhibits, that needs to be entered. If it's cash that's being handed in, the serial numbers of the cash need to be entered. So it needs to be a very comprehensive and complete entry that's being made there.
And if we then take it to the second, what I'll call the second SAP 13 register, which is the receiving police station, must the same exercise be undertaken?
That is correct, Commissioners. That's when exhibits are transferred to another station.
Okay. Now then, I would like us to go to paragraph 7, as you're helping us understand.
Maybe before you do that, Mr.
Yes,
just to clear this. General, where it says to the relevant unit, in this case, the relevant unit would have been the DPCI, in the case that we are dealing with.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloy. To your response to Commissioner Baloy's question, I would like you to flag it, because as we work through this document, we will have to revisit that answer for clarity, okay? But in the meantime, I would like us to then go to paragraph 7 at page 74. And at paragraph 7, which is headed Property in Temporary Storage Facilities in the CSC, I take it then police station, as you explained. And it requires that all property entered in the SAPS 13 must be locked in a temporary storage facility at CSC, where they must be kept safely until handed over to the station commander or exhibit official. In the case of the Port Shepstone seizure and the SAP entry at Isipingo, who would have at the time been the exhibit official?
Warrant Officer Peramol, Commissioners.
So Warrant Officer Perumal is our exhibit official.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Then I invite us to paragraph 8. You had touched on this briefly. Paragraph 8 regulates the transfer of exhibits from one police station to another. Part 1 or sub 1 of paragraph 8. It states that the transfer document SAP 13 sub G is completed by the sub 13 official in all instances where exhibits are transferred from one police station to another or between sub 13 stores. Would it be logical for us to expect to obtain an SAP 13 sub G from Isipingo police station in regard to the Port Shepstone seizure?
That's correct, Commissioners, because it's a requirement.
And part 2 deals with the completion of their transfer document. Is this a separate document from the SAP 13 book that is completed? Is it a standalone document, or is it part of the SAP 13, I'll call it a book, where various entries are made? What exactly is a transfer document?
Commissioners, it is a separate document. It does not form part of the actual register where the exhibits are entered into.
So when we then turn to sub 3, sub 3, as I understand it, lists the information that must be provided in this separate document that is called a transfer document. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And at sub 5, a similar requirement, but this time for the receiving station. So sub 3 regulates the requirement for a transfer document by the transferring station. In our instance, in this particular case, that would be Isipingo Police Station. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Sub 5 regulates the requirements for a transfer document by the receiving station. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
So, and basically the requirements are the same. Have you said you haven't seen a separate, this transfer document. Have you seen any document that provides the detail required in sub 3? And
No.
I'm not calling it a transfer document for a moment, but any document that has captured the requirements of sub 3A to I.
No, I'm not aware of any such documents, Commissioners.
And similarly then, am I correct to assume that you haven't seen in respect of a document contemplated in sub 5, A to H?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Are you able to express a view then as to the correctness of or compliance of the transfer of these exhibits from Isipingo to Port Shepstone?
There was non-compliance, Commissioners.
Can I try to understand this? In sub 5, what would be the receiving station on the facts of what we are dealing with?
Commissioners, one of two, Port Shepstone Police Station or the DPCI SAP 13 in Port Shepstone.
But was there a transfer to Port Shepstone Police Station?
I believe we are coming to that, Commissioners, but indeed it went to Port Shepstone Police Station and not to the SAP 13 of the Serious Organized Crime Unit at Port Shepstone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And perhaps while we are here, there is what is formally called the Port Shepstone Police Station. Is that correct?
That's
there
correct.
There is a police station in Port Shepstone.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And that is different from the Port Shepstone DPCI offices. Is that not so?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Where what we know happened here is that the transfer, quote unquote, was from Isipingo Police Station to Port Shepstone offices. And that is where they were stored on the 22nd of June, 2022.
Indeed, Commissioners.
Then, if I could invite us then to overleaf at page 60 at paragraph 9. This deals with property dealt with by experts. And I'm interested in sub 1 of that paragraph. It reads, specialized units.
Sorry, you send him back to 60, 76.
76, did I say 60?
Yes, he was going back to 60.
Oh, I do apologize. I guess I just saw the 6 and then added 76 for the record, 76.
Just a very brief observation. 8.5, is there no need for the description of the exhibits? I see no reference to that there. Of course, you can't change the form, but I'm just asking out of interest. There is reference to that under 383. H, description of exhibits, I would have thought that the person receiving should, there should be an entry that says description of exhibits again to correspond with what the transferor says.
That's correct, Commissioner.
You might want to raise that with the relevant sections of subs.
Thank you for that observation, Chairperson.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I had then directed us to page 76. And we are dealing with paragraph 9. The first subparagraph, sub 1. And it reads, specialized units resorting under the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigations, DPCI, and the Division Forensic Services may, with the consent of the Divisional Commissioner or Head, DPCI, keep separate SAP 13 registers to record exhibits. Do you see where I'm reading?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Is the Port Shepstone, are the Port Shepstone DPCI offices an entity contemplated in sub 1? Or is that something completely different?
Commissioners, that will only be an approved SAP 13 if it was approved by the national head of the DPCI. I do not have knowledge on
Sorry,
whether.
before you go further, I'm trying to understand, before we get to the question of the SAP 13, this subparagraph speaks of specialized units resorting under the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigations, DPCI, and the Division Forensic Services. Now, my question is, Port Shepstone office, DPCI offices, are they the specialized service units that are referred to in this subparagraph?
Indeed, Commissioners.
And then taking it further, that subparagraph tells us that then the DPCI offices in Port Shepstone may keep a separate SAP record. Trying to understand the ranking. Would that be the position? Who's the divisional commissioner? Perhaps let me ask that.
Well, from my reading of this paragraph, Commissioners, the divisional commissioner referred to here is the Divisional Commissioner for Forensic Services.
Yes.
And then on the part of the DPCI, it is the national head of the DPCI that can approve such a SAP 13 facility or register to be kept.
So in the absence of an approval such as contemplated in sub 1, Port Shepstone DPCI offices cannot retain a sub 13 register.
That's
that
correct.
correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
To your knowledge, have the offices, and that's the Port Shepstone offices, ever been approved to retain such a register?
I do not have knowledge of that, Commissioners.
Now, you recall that Commissioner Khumalo asked you, I'll take a step back to page 75, about the receiving station. And your response, or I think it was Commissioner Balo, your response was that would have been Port Shepstone Police Station. Now we know that the seized cargo was taken to Port Shepstone office, DPCI offices. You inform the commissioners that you are not aware of the offices having been cleared or approved to retain an SAP 13 register. If that's where they went, why then do you conclude that the receiving station in this instance, as in paragraph 8 sub 5, was Port Shepstone Police Station. These are two separate places.
Commissioners,
go ahead.
after the exhibits was booked in and booked out at Isipingo on the 22nd of June 2021, the officers took the exhibits to the Serious Organized Crime Unit Port Shepstone, stored it there in the walk-in safe. And then only on a later date, on the 24th of June, the exhibits were entered into the SAP 13 at Port Shepstone SAPS, whilst it was still, until the burglary and theft, in the walk-in safe in Port Shepstone Organised Crime Unit.
So if I understand you correctly, the exhibits were physically taken to Port Shepstone offices. 2 days later, they were entered into the Port Shepstone Police Station SAP 13. Am I understanding you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioners.
If Port Shepstone Police Station was intended as the receiving station, was it not required, therefore, to have taken control of the exhibits before they are entered into the SAP 13 at the police station in Port Shepstone?
That's correct, Commissioners.
But we know that it happened. Do you know whether there was ever a transfer, however temporary, from the DPCI Port Shepstone offices to the police station in Port Shepstone to complete the exercise, the SAP 13 exercise as the receiving station? Do you know?
I'm not aware of such, Commissioners.
Okay. Now, our SAP 13s are now available. Commissioners, there are two documents that have been presented before you. These will be
Handwritten.
handwritten, yes. They're actually completed forms. There are two of them. These are marked, paginated 193 and 194 as exhibits. There'll be exhibit CJC 193 and CJC 194 respectively. The small one is 193.
193.
193 is the smaller one. For now, I'll call them the small one until the general confirms what they are.
I always rely on the attorneys to
Yeah.
sort that out for
Indeed.
yes.
Yes, indeed, Chair, it shall be done. It was for purposes of the record. Yes, thank you. General, you have received the two documents that they've just been distributed now, I referred to, correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
I would like us to turn our attention to the first. At the top right corner, it is written in manuscript A16. You see that document?
That's correct, Commissioners.
What is this? It's a two-page document. What is this document?
Commissioners, it is a copy of the SAP 13 at Isipingo Police Station.
Now, we know from evidence tendered thus far that this seizure was registered, was booked in, and subsequently booked out at Isipingo Police Station. Is this the SAP 13 that would have reflected that book in, book out process?
That's correct, Commissioners.
If you look at the first page of that document, there is an entry 373 dated 22/06/2021. And in the second column, it indicates DPCI inquiry number, and then it provides a description. Do you know what that entry is?
Advocate Celio, do you refer to column 3, the entry?
The
Or column
second
2?
entry on the page, the first seems to be headed 323, item, whatever, entry 372. The second is entry 373.
373. Oh,
Yes,
yes.
373. Rather dyslexic this morning, apologies. Do you see where I am, General?
In column 2, Commissioners, that DPCI inquiry number, it refers to the inquiry file under which this investigation was conducted.
And that was as at the date reflected in the first column, 22/06/2021.
That's correct, Commissioners.
I then want us to move to the third column. And if you could read, if you can make out what's written there, if you could read what's written in this SAP 13.
Commissioners, it is written a 1 and then a bracket, so it's for item 1, and it's just reflecting 541, and then in brackets 541, multiply 1 kilogram brick containing powder suspected to be cocaine.
And again, as you made a correction yesterday, it should have been, there should have been each somewhere there. Because now this suggests that all of this is 1 kg.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. And I think you identified this as the Isipingo SAP 30 in this document.
That's correct, Commissioners.
When one looks at this document, I do not see any further description as, I think, contemplated by the National Instruction 8 of 2017, that each exhibit must be individually identified in the receiving. No. In the first station where the crime is committed, when they enter into the SAP 13, that's the totality of the description of the exhibits. It's inconsistent with the response you gave that each single piece of exhibit has to be individually listed in the SAP 13.
And described.
And described.
Yeah, you would, for instance, if it was properly done, I would have expected to see that there would have been multiple entries, Commissioners, first and foremost. Second to that, there would have been an indication to say 1 forensic exhibit seal bag with seal number 12345 containing 20 suspected bricks of cocaine. And that will complete that entry. And then the second and the third and the fourth. And then all other additional exhibits that might have been seized from a crime scene.
And
What about the description of the containers? I mean, you can't just say a brick, because how does that work? My understanding was that they were wrapped in black or some other form of, because looking at this, it's so easy to swap it for something else, and nobody would know that the exhibits have been swapped for something else. Shouldn't the description of the containers also say, I'm just looking at Chair's constitution. Chair is a big fan of the constitution. Its color is black, and so the photos that we saw yesterday, shouldn't that be part of the description as well?
Indeed, Commissioners. That's why I say all other exhibits seized from the crime scene. And these are exhibits. The wrappings, the bags in which it was, the additional wrapping around that bags with the carry handles, all of those was then supposed to, after it was, the cocaine was removed from those bags, to also form part of the list of exhibits.
I think, look at the screen.
That's
what
correct.
I had in mind. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
so then in response to Commissioner Kumalo's question, each one of those bricks ought to have been listed in this Isipingo SAP 13 and fully described.
Well, since almost all of them are similar, it's
Yes.
basically 2 types of packaging.
Yes.
Commissioners, that's why I indicated it gets supposed to be packaged correctly at the crime scene, and then you give an explanation of the exhibits that's handed in. So It serves no purpose to go and describe each and every block, because it will be 541 of similar entries. It obviously needs to speak to the chain of custody. And that's why it's important that the seal numbers in which 20 or 15 or 10 blocks are packaged are properly reflected in the register. As well as, and you can see there on the top left-hand side of the photo, that black bags, all of that it's still exhibits. And it needs to be also sealed and properly recorded in the applicable register.
And I think your testimony yesterday was, it is at this juncture, when they are entered into the SAP 13, that they must be sealed in proper forensic evidence bags.
Before you
Yes, Chair.
you deal with it, now that you've taken us back to the photographs, Ms. Sigels Ngube promised to give these photographs and maybe something else as well, I'm not sure now, to give them exhibit numbers. Please do not forget that.
No, indeed, I understand that is
Yes.
underway. And the exhibit number, the two exhibit numbers we provided, CJC 193, 194, have already taken the pictures into consideration.
Okay.
Yes, definitely, Chair.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'd say, my General, yesterday I understood you to have testified that at the crime scene, the exhibits must be, and at the bookings police station, they must be entered into the SAP 13 register and placed at the same time in proper evidence bags, sealed and marked and duly marked. Did I understand you correctly?
That is at the crime scene, if conditions permit, obviously, as per the directive, Commissioners.
At the crime scene.
At the crime scene.
So we know that it didn't happen at the crime scene. Instead, they were taken to the Isipingo police station. And that picture we looked at, where the exhibits as they were at the Isipingo police station. That is the time they were entered into the SAP 13. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, I want to understand whether after the entry into the SAP 13, is it at this juncture they must be placed in evidence bags and sealed?
No, this was already at the police station. So if they omitted to do it at the crime scene, at the container, at least there was a second bite at the cherry where they could have conducted still proper crime scene management. And even here, it was not done, Commissioners.
So,
Sorry.
yes.
General, are you saying even here at Sipingo, they should, having failed to do it at the crime scene, at this point now at the police station, they should have put them in bags?
Indeed, Commissioner, although on face value what I observed there is that the exhibits were already contaminated, unless the colleagues had gloves on. But it could still have been photographed properly by LCRC, as well as properly sealed in exhibit seal bags. And the exhibits could have been properly reflected in the SAP 13 register. There was no need to just take the exhibits as it was in that state from Isipingo to Port Shepstone, because anything can happen along the way. Some of the exhibits can go missing. And the chain of custody is really not at the required standard where we expect detectives to function at.
Thank you, General. So at least we know from, and if the crime scene had been properly handled, then the exhibits in their respective evidence bags, sealed, duly sealed and marked, would have then been entered into the SAP 13 at Isipingo.
Indeed, Commissioners.
And now we know it didn't happen here, at least if this SAP 13 is to be believed.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Then on the same document, if you go over leaf, there are some entries made there. I just want you to explain to me. I read the first column under 4 as a member who booked these exhibits at Sipingo and references the
New Lindt Choco Wafer. Crispy, creamy, dreamy.
That's correct, Commissioners.
and it is duly signed for. What I'm interested in is the 5th column, the entry in the 5th column. You recall we're having a conversation on regarding the book in, book out process. That requires a registration in the first police station, SAP 13, and immediately booked out to another police station where an SAP 13 would be completed. I'm correct? That is the general process.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And now we have dealt with the issue of the transfer documents to take account of that movement from the one police station to another police station. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, yesterday you referenced book in, book out. Must that strictly be from police station to police station, or can it be booked out for other purposes?
The exhibits can obviously and must be booked out to be submitted to the Forensic Science Laboratory, Commissioners. So that is also a legitimate reason.
Okay. And if we then look at column 5, the entry there, the second one, I think the book sort of reads across. Highlighted in green and yellow. That is the continuation of the entry regarding these exhibits, you confirm?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, if I am reading this properly at column 5, it reads, items taken for analysis and given the date 2021-06-2022. I read that to be the book out process that you spoke of after the book in.
That's correct, Commissioners. That's what column 5 is created for.
And I see that happened, it confirms it happened on the 22nd of June 2021, which is the same day as the date of seizure.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It reflects, obviously, taken for analysis.
I'm interested in the date for the moment, General.
Yes, that's the date of the seizure.
Now, my challenge is, we know after the book out, they went to Port Shepstone DPCI offices. This is marked, the reason provided here is items taken for analysis. Was analysis to be done at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices, or am I misreading what's here?
Commissioners, perhaps just two things that I need to comment on. First and foremost, this entry by one of the detectives that was part of the search and seizure operation referred to in column 5 was supposed to be in column 6, not in column 5. Column 5 is for the station commander or the SAP 13 clerk to acknowledge receipt of the exhibits. That's the first aspect. The second aspect is that clearly this entry is a false entry because the exhibits was never taken for analysis on that date. It's completely misleading because the exhibits went from Isipingo to Port Shepstone and it was never submitted for analysis as depicted here.
Not on that date, and not ever.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Thank you, General. Let's then turn to the second document that was distributed today. That will be CJC 194 for the record. If you could briefly inform the commissioners what this document is.
Commissioners, the second document on the top right-hand corner reflects as A3 is a copy of the SAP 13 register of Port Shepstone SAPS, the police station.
And I think earlier you had indicated, and I think that the document bears you out, that these entries were made 2 days after the seizure and after the cargo had been locked up at the Port Shepstone offices. Did I understand you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioners. According to the document, column 1, it's reflected there 2021-06-24, and the reference number at Port Shepstone was 883 for that specific calendar year.
Now, who would bear responsibility for these entries in this document?
Commissioners, the exhibits was entered by Warrant Officer Mpangase.
But if I understood it, Warrant Officer Mpangase is one of the investigating officers. Should the SAP entry not be countersigned by the exhibit official, the official who is responsible for the exhibits at the police station?
Commissioners, if we can perhaps go to the last page
Yes.
of this exhibit. In column 4 under paragraph 4.5, it indicates the signature of Community Service Center member who receives exhibits or the property. And there is a different signature affixed to that column under 4.5 after Warrant Officer Mpangase entered the exhibits into the register.
Indeed. So I'm saying it is that signature, whoever it belongs to, is that person who then becomes the exhibit official and is responsible for these exhibits from that point.
That's correct, Commissioners, but here we have to also take into consideration, again, paragraph 6.1, where Warrant Officer Mpangase, again on the 24th, booked out the exhibits.
Apologies, General, you are ahead of us. We will get to that point. Okay. You recall that we dealt with, in terms of the instruction note, the transferring station and the receiving station requirements and the transfer documents. Now, you explained that when they are registered in the receiving police station, that police station takes responsibility for the exhibits. And they are entered into that police station's SAP 13. And this is what this document purports to be the Port Shepstone Police Station SAP 13. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And my question, therefore, is if the commissioners were to go to Port Shepstone Police Station to establish who was the official responsible for receiving these exhibits, there has to be somebody identifiable to say, I received them and I signed the SAP 13 form. Am I correct? Is my understanding?
That's correct. That's how it's supposed to be working.
Now, from the document before us, are we able to determine who the receiving official at the Port Shepstone Police Station was?
I cannot identify from this document, Commissioners.
And as you rightly say, at the end of that document, just under 4.5, is a signature with no name, no, is it a member number, no date?
No rank.
No rank. Do you have any comments to what we are confronted with?
Well, Commissioners, from a reading of the document, it's clear that this was just an entry into the register at this police station to have a reference number for the exhibits that's been kept at Port Shepstone. According to my knowledge, the actual exhibits was not taken out of the walk-in safe at the unit, taken to Port Shepstone, booked in there, booked out, and taken back again. This is just a paper exercise that was performed here. And that is why Warrant Officer Mpangase immediately again, or directly after he entered it here, on the same date, made the entry, apparently he made the entry under paragraph 6, that the exhibits is taken for investigation.
Taken from the Port Shepstone police station in 6.1.
Yes, it reflects items 3.1 to 3.31 taken for investigation. Obviously then from the police station, because the entry is made at Port Shepstone police station. So it's incorrect, it's a false entry.
We will get to you say it's Warrant Officer Mpangase's entries under 6.1. I'm still interested in what was happening to record these exhibits as received by Port Shepstone Police Station. As you sit there in the position that you are in, must somebody be held accountable for this entry besides Warrant Officer Mpangase, who at least signs here as the person handing them in? Must the purported receiving person be held responsible and answerable to what exactly was happening here?
Commissioners, it's a difficult question. I believe that if that individual can be identified, it will be prudent to perhaps get a version from that official in terms of what transpired here before I can comment on whether that person needs to be held responsible. I do not know what transpired there.
I'll put it differently. Somebody purported to have received these. You testified earlier that you know that they never left the DPCI offices in Port Shepstone. Is that a concern to you that you are confronted with an entry such as this in circumstances where somebody in Port Shepstone Police Station purports to be receiving something that never left the DPCI offices in the first place?
Indeed, Commissioners, because it is a misrepresentation.
Now, that person, would I be correct to conclude that based on what is written here, this person confirms that these exhibits were in fact cocaine? You remember when they left Isipingo, they are noted as suspected to be cocaine. The receiving, if we go to the first document, the Isipingo SAP 13, says 541 by 1 kg brick containing powder suspected to be cocaine. You confirm that, right?
That's correct, Commissioner.
And we know overleaf in that the entry was that these were taken for analysis.
That's
and
correct.
You testified that, to your knowledge, no analysis was conducted.
That's correct, Commissioners.
2 days later now, Port Shepstone Police Station accepts them as bricks of powder. Also, my apologies, it still says suspected to be cocaine. I misread that. My question is there any evidence, objective, independent evidence, that the exhibits entered into Isipingo SAP 13 are the same that are now registered here at the Port Shepstone Police Station? Is there any independent evidence that the Commission can turn to? I think you said that Isipingo is about more than 100 kilometers from Port Shepstone.
Port Shepstone, that's correct, Commissioner.
So what must we look to satisfy ourselves that what was taken, what was registered as Isipingo is indeed what is now registered at Port Shepstone Police Station?
There's no independent corroboration to come to the conclusion that what was entered in Isipingo is now entered at Port Shepstone, Commissioners.
Now, are you in a position to express an opinion as now regards the conduct of Warrant Officer Mpangase, who, as you indicated under column 6, states that these items were taken for investigation? Do you have a view to express on that?
Commissioner, even that is a misrepresentation. If it was booked out for investigation, there was no investigation to be done on the exhibits except for the work to be done by FSL. So it was supposed to read taken then for submission to FSL. That's what I would have suspected, not for investigation, because as a detective at organized crime, the warrant unfortunately cannot determine whether it's cocaine or not. So that's a misrepresentation.
I'm sure you meant expected and not suspected.
Expected.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, General. In both documents, the two SAP 13s, the exhibits are said to relate to DPCI Inquiry 28/06/2021. I think yesterday you touched on, an inquiry number versus a CAS number. And if I understood you correctly, for all intents and purposes, they're about the same. It's in the registered inquiry.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And this inquiry is registered at the DPCI, by the DPCI.
That's correct, Commissioners.
I would take it then once registered and investigations start, investigations start, a file is created. I won't call it a docket, being an inquiry. A file is created that is then populated with whatever the investigations are able to yield. Is that a correct assumption on my part?
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioners. What basically happens is that the inquiry gets registered. Then the person that opened it will obviously affix either a statement or a document to the A part of the inquiry, make an entry into the SAP5, which is the investigation diary, in the C clip of the inquiry, and then submit that inquiry immediately to an officer for and we refer to it as a 24-hour inspection, and then the inquiry is booked out to an investigating officer.
And from the same documents, they are all in manuscript headed Port Shepstone CAS 129/11/2021. But that is the post-burglary or post-theft of the exhibit. That's a different CAS number, correct?
Yes, that is all the evidence that was gathered subsequent to the burglary and theft that's contained in the Port Shepstone docket, Commissioners.
I ask this because
On what basis are you arresting us? What evidence do you have that I helped Neil escape?
No evidence, but we have eyewitnesses.
First catch Neil.
I have no idea where to even look for Neil.
If he manages to find any evidence, then we won't be able to save ourselves, got it?
Ideal Son-in-Law, Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. on yours truly, Z World, DSTV 166 and GoTV 30.
The investigating officer is having the original inquiry that was registered, Commissioners.
to your knowledge, are there any documents in that inquiry file predating the day of the theft?
Commissioner,
to your recollection, if you can't comment.
I do not have detail of what was contained in the inquiry file.
Okay. And you say the investigating officer will be able to shed light on that.
Indeed, Commissioners.
I'm happy to leave it at that. Now, I think we can then pick up from where you left off at your statement.
Maybe before.
Yes, Commissioner.
General, this CJC 194, just to understand it, at the very last page, the entry there, it's the very last column in the extreme right. I think at the top it says page 56, if you're where I am.
That's correct, Commissioner. I observe it.
So you've got that 6.1 entry there by Warrant Officer Bangase, and then it says items 3.1 rather, to 3.31 taken for investigation. Am I correct to understand it to mean that he conveys that he took the whole consignment out for investigation? Is that a correct understanding?
You are correct, Commissioner. If you, for instance, look at the previous pages, the list of exhibits booked in by Warrant Officer Pangase was from 3.1 until 320.
Yeah.
Just see the pages up to 331.
Yes. Okay, so he's,
So
he's
it means
representing that he took everything.
Everything,
for
that's
investigation.
correct, Commissioner.
All right. And then still in that column, but the typewriting above where you've got those paragraph numbers, 6.4 above where you've got the typing, it says signature of deliverer. Now, if you look at the handwritten 6.4, it's a scribble, and I think Mr. Law was saying we can't tell who that is. Who is a receiver where it says signature of deliverer? What is contemplated there?
The deliverer obviously will be, and on face value, it seems to be the same person that signed on a 4.5, will be then the Community Service Center commander, in all probability, if it was not the SAP 13 clerk that affixed his or her signature to both columns.
So they are a deliverer because what? They are the ones that hand over the
And handing out the exhibits again,
to
Commissioner.
Mpangase if things were done properly. Ordinarily, he would be handing over.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Okay, all right. And then lastly, in CJC 193, the smaller exhibit, the second page, and you touched on this, where Warrant Officer Mpangase gives the reason why the items are being taken out of Isipingo, and he says items taken for analysis. Is it a correct understanding for me to understand this to mean these, as far as this is concerned, this document, these exhibits remained under the control of Isipingo? They were just taken out for analysis.
No.
They were not being transferred to another police station.
No, it does not remain under the custodianship or command of the Pingo Station commander. Mpangase assumed full responsibility for the exhibits when he booked it out.
Okay, maybe let me ask it differently. So let's say, forget that we have 194 CJC, forget about it. Imagine it's not there. And all I have is this 193. And I look there where it says item taken for analysis. It gives me Mpangase and his first number. Should I expect that if I go to Isipingo, if this is all I'm dealing with, if I go to Isipingo, I should find these exhibits there? Because he says they've been taken out for analysis, or does it mean taken out for analysis ordinarily would even include transferring them to a different station?
Commissioner, it can only mean what he has said here. It's taken for analysis. So it's not supposed to be at Isipingo station further. The only place it can be will be at the different police station, but in terms of this entry, it's supposed to be at the Forensic Science Laboratory and at no other place.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Silo, I want to ask a question, and please feel free to stop me if you're still coming to it, because I may be getting ahead of myself.
Thank you.
General, shouldn't there be another document akin to CJC's 193 and 194 reflecting the arrival of these exhibits at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices and their storage there? Shouldn't there be a document that accounts for that process?
Commissioner, in the normal way of going about investigations, obviously there will be contemporaneous notes and statements filed to that effect. But here it's clear that there was no SAP 13 register at the unit in Port Shepstone, and that's why, in order to obtain a reference number for the exhibits, that's why it was just booked in the paper exercise at Port Shepstone Police Station.
But then how do we know that 551 bags actually arrived at the DPCI offices in Port Shepstone if there's no document recording the arrival of those exhibits in the form described in 193 to say it was 541 1 kg bricks containing powder that looks like cocaine? So how do we know that these bricks ever made their way to the warehouse or the office in Port Shepstone if there's no document that records that?
That's indeed true, and it is a shortcoming, Commissioner, that you are identifying. But there are witness statements to that effect in the case docket, and I would prefer not to elaborate more on that specific aspect at this point, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner. But I think if I understand the question correctly myself, maybe I just might be confusing. The question is slightly different. I understand, and we are aware of the statements that are in the docket. What I understood, Commissioner Kumalo, to try and establish from you is we have the SAP 13 from Isipingo. That's a formal objective document that survives anyone's death, so to speak, right? We have the second, which is the SAP Port Shepstone police station document. Without having to resort to statements obtained under certain circumstances, is there a document, a objective separate from everything else and not a statement obtained under, let's say, during investigations after the theft? Is there a Port Shepstone DPCI officer's document that reflects that on this day, at this time, these exhibits were received?
I am not aware of such, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I want to, yes, Commissioner.
And that seems to be what paragraph 9.1 contemplates, that there would have been an SAP 13 register of the DPCI, which would then have recorded these exhibits.
That is how it was supposed to work,
Yes.
Commissioner.
Thank
Indeed,
you.
your understanding is correct, Commissioner Baloy.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloy. You recall when we were dealing with CJC 194, this is the Port Shepstone Police Station, SAP 13. I had started to make a particular comment, and I corrected myself and I said I misread the document. And that was in relation to the description of the exhibits. The first entry at 3.1 states that it's one FSL exhibit bag and gives a number containing 20 bricks of powder suspected to be cocaine. We dealt with that. I then corrected myself that Port Shepstone Police Station doesn't deal with the exhibits as definitely cocaine, but, maintains the position assumed by Sipingo as well that it's powder suspected to be cocaine. On closer reflection, when I look at 3.2, it says 20 bricks, of some word cocaine sealed in exhibit. Because I don't know what is the word that precedes cocaine, I'll
Drug.
or drugs. That then, if you look at 3.2 following, every other entry is described as drug cocaine. It's no longer, what do I make of this? Only the first batch at 3.1 is suspected to be cocaine, and the rest are definitely cocaine? Or must I read this document to mean that notwithstanding the wording of 3.2 to 3.31, they are still all suspected to be cocaine? As a police officer, how would you advise we properly read it?
Commissioners, the entry reflected in 3.1 is indeed spot on. That is how it's supposed to be. Because according to my knowledge, there was no presumptive test conducted at the crime scene or at Isipingo Police Station to indeed confirm that it was cocaine. So 3.1 is correct. From 3.2 onwards, if all speak about cocaine, that will be inaccurate.
Thank you. Okay, I'd invited us then to go back to your statement, your original statement. And I think based on where you concluded yesterday, we should pick it up from page 23, paragraph 65.
Not 64.
I was wondering whether it's 64, 65. I'd marked 65, but
actually
I'm
have-
happy to go back to
I
65.
actually have a mark against 64.
That will do so, Chair. In fact, I'll go a step back, perhaps to contextualize. At 63, you say I referred earlier to the November 2021 information note by General Musikidi. Do you see where I'm reading?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And then as the chair suggests, we then must pick it up from your paragraph 64. Correct?
That's correct,
Can you
Commissioners.
deal then with the contents of paragraph 64?
Yes, Commissioners. There is an allegation that FSL was again contacted on 27 October 2021 to expedite the analysis report. However, Warrant Officer Sechedi reiterated that FSL did not have space to store the exhibits. This is after FSL had received 700 kilograms of cocaine seized in Ayrton in July 2021. Curiously, no attempts were made to increase security at the premises or to move the cocaine to a more secure location after the attempted break-in.
If you could continue then on to 65, then we will turn our attention to the information note you reference.
I say this especially because even before the exhibits were stored at Port Shepstone, the premises had not been secure. In the information note, General Musikidi refers to 6 break-ins at the premises before June 2021, with the most recent before the theft being on 15 January 2021. Most importantly, on 22 January 2020, Lieutenant Colonel S.R. Singh, Acting Section Commander Counterintelligence Crime Intelligence KZN, submitted a report to the Provincial Head of Crime Intelligence KZN, Provincial Head of the DPCI KZN, Section Head Operations Crime Intelligence KZN, Section Commander Ugu Cluster Crime Intelligence KZN, and the National Head Security Standard Counterintelligence to address the security breach at the Port Shepstone premises following the 20 January 2020 break-in. The report is attached to General Musikidi's information note.
Okay, there are 2 issues, particularly in this paragraph, that I think we should deal with sequentially. The first is you say the report references 6 previous break-ins at the premises before June 2021. General Musikidi's report and information note is your annexure HFF4, starting at page 113. That is the document you reference, correct?
It is correct, Commissioners.
Okay, now if you turn to page 118, the heading there is the security aspect. And are these the break-ins you referred to at your paragraph 65?
That's correct, Commissioners.
I don't know if, because I've been particularly dyslexic this morning, whether I have it wrong. I count, excluding the last, which is the actual break-in at Port Shepstone in November 2021, resulting in the theft of the drugs. I count 7 previous. You reference 6. Who is dyslexic this time, General, between you and I? But most important, are these the same break-ins you referred to at paragraph 65?
Commissioners, indeed, it's the same break-ins, and I accept responsibility for that error. It's indeed 7 and not 6.
Most importantly, it's for my own self-esteem, because it confirms I'm not particularly dyslexic. Thank you. So you say that would make it 7, according to that table, 7 break-ins at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices, or from December 2011 to October 2021. And once again, I'm discounting the last entry. Am I correct?
That's correct, Commissioners.
In your experience, how secure would you consider premises that have been broken into that many times over a 10-year period? I can make a call. I don't know if this is highly insecure, medium, or low. What comment would you give to that?
Commissioners, I'm of the view that it's almost not secured. It just shows us that here's a lot of opportunities for prospective housebreakers or burglars to gain access to this premises. So the security measures at that office obviously was not at the required standard.
And in the same paragraph 65, you then deal with the communication by Lieutenant Colonel S.R. Singh. This is referred to at paragraph 4.2 of General Musikidi's report that we're considering, but I think best we go to the actual letter by Lieutenant Colonel Singh, and that you'll find still under the same annexure number HFF4 at page 121. Do you see that?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, this is directed to 5 heads of various units. I'm particularly interested in the second addressee, the provincial head, Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigations, KwaZulu-Natal. Do you see where I'm reading?
That's correct, Commissioners.
If you go over leaflet 122, at the bottom, you will see that this document is signed by Lieutenant Colonel Singh and it's dated 2020, January 2022. Do you see?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Do you know who was the provincial head, Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigations, KwaZulu-Natal, as at that date?
Commissioners, if my memory serves me correct, by then there was not a person appointed as the provincial head, so one of the brigadiers within the province would have been acting. General Sonona was only promoted and appointed later during 2020 to the position of provincial head for the DPCI and KZN. So subsequent to this letter, he got promoted.
So, and it's a position that General Sonona continues to hold.
That's correct, Commissioners.
So based on your answer then, are you suggesting that General Sonona would have inherited these issues, quote unquote, by inherited?
Indeed, Commissioners.
Let's then look into the content of this letter. And in particular, I would like us to have regard to paragraphs 1, 3, and 4 for the moment. Colonel Singh's letter.
Paragraph 1. On 2020-01-20, a breach in security at the above-mentioned offices was reported via email to this office as per attached correspondence from Captain L. van Niekerk of the Provincial DPCI SEM, and that stands for Supply Chain Management Head. The officers were visited by Captain L. van Niekerk on 2020-01-20 in order to conduct a site inspection of the breach. On page 122,
Yes, please.
a case was opened at Port Shepstone SAPS via case 268 of 1/2020. And then paragraph 4, a general inspection conducted by this office previously of the premises revealed the following in terms of MIS. Now, MIS stands for Minimum Information Security Standards. Security measures. No CCTV cameras are installed in and around the premises. There is no early warning alarm systems in place within the office space, more specifically in offices located on the ground floor. And then the third bullet is no beam sensors located exterior to the office accommodation.
Thank you. Now, you recall when we started with this document, you indicated that General Sonona is the current provincial head of the DPCI in KZN, but to your knowledge and recollection, he was not holding that position as at the date of issue of this letter.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Do you happen to know who was the provincial commander of the DPCI in Port Shepstone at the time?
The provincial commander for serious organized crime in the province based in Durban was and still is Brigadier Newswa. The unit commander or the acting unit commander by then, 2020, I'm not certain of who that individual would have been, who was the commander at Port Shepstone.
Then if I perhaps can ask you to perhaps run ahead to page 124 of the same annexure. This now, for the record, is the report by General Sonona, annexed to General Musikidi's information note, and the document itself is dated 9th November 2021. I want to refer you to page 124, paragraph 1.4 of General Sonona's report. And I wonder if you can help clarify something for me. Are you at 1.4?
Yes, I am.
Just for context, this document is about the seizure and storage and subsequent theft of the very drugs we're having conversation about. At 1.4, the last sentence reads thus. Okay, the penultimate sentence. A request was made to arrange a suitable storage location. Do you see where I'm reading? This is after they've been at Isipingo. You
That's
see where I'm
correct.
reading? It continues, the provincial commander indicated that the DPCI Port Shepstone SOCI unit premises be utilized to store said exhibits. The location has been used to store drug exhibits previously as it has 2 strong rooms. My first question is, do you know who was the provincial commander at this time?
It was still Brigadier Newswalk, Commissioners.
So would it then be correct to say the decision to store at the DPCI offices, Port Shepstone, was based on, is it Brigadier Newswalk? Brigadier Newswalk's advice? Is
That's
that how-
correct, Commissioners.
Okay. Then I would like to invite your comment in the context of what Lieutenant Colonel Singh has said about the shortcomings in security measures of the premises. The absence of CCTV cameras, absence of warning system alarms, no beam sensors. I would like to invite your comment on the conclusion at paragraph 124 that this location has been used to store drug exhibits previously as it has 2 strong rooms. What does the fact that it has strong rooms, what impact does that have on the security arrangements that were in place at the time, as expressed by Lieutenant Colonel Singh in his letter?
Well, Commissioners, the mere fact that it's a strong room is no guarantee that the crime cannot be committed, for instance, a burglary as it happened here. You need additional layers of security measures to obviously make it difficult or impossible for individuals to breach that premises first and foremost, and then to get access to the building, and then to execute successfully the breaching of the vault and the removing of the exhibits. So additional security measures is critical. If that's not in place, I'm of the view that it's extremely reckless and irresponsible to place exhibits in such a strong room or a vault. It would have been more safe at any other police station that is 24 hours manned, because at least you've got a human element then at the police station, and those police officers on duty in the charge office are armed. So at least that's an additional barrier that was completely absent here.
Thank you, General. Then if we could go back then to General Musikidi's, Lieutenant Colonel Singh's letter at page 121. He concludes that letter with certain comments, and they sound more like recommendations regarding being heard to the wording. He concludes, under comments, it is hereby recommended. Do you see where I'm reading?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Could you please read those recommendations into the record?
It is hereby recommended that the above-mentioned office initiate processes in order to remedy the contributing factors that led to the physical security breach, which is, first bullet, installation of perimeter beam sensors around the ground floor of the office accommodation. Bullet 2, interior office accommodation infrared sensors. Bullet 3, engagement with the contracted armed response company to ensure efficient service in terms of timeous visits to the site. And then the fourth bullet, the upgrading and repairs of the perimeter lighting. Thank
you. Do you know whether any of these recommendations were carried out?
I do not have knowledge of such, Commissioners.
So you are not in a position to comment whether or not any one of them was in place 18 months later when the theft took place.
That's correct, Commissioners.
Chair and Commissioners, I see it's 11. Might this be inappropriate?
Let us adjourn and resume at 11:25.
Thank you, Chair. You see that?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, there is a note in manuscript there. Discuss paragraph 6, thank you. Now, I accept, and it's signed by Lieutenant General National Head, Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, SG Libya, and dated the 28th of January 2022. I accept that you wouldn't know whether or not General Libya and General Musikidi didn't discuss, as he had suggested.
That's correct, Commissioners.
I was more interested in whether or not in your environment you are aware of any of these recommendations having been carried out. And you have responded to that. So I get Commissioner Kumalo, this is a matter that General Libya is better placed to shed light on.